It's fun. I love this sport. I gave it my all. It's fucking crazy. I had a blast, and thank you to all the fans and everyone.
All right, folks, it's over. Anthony Joshua knocks out Jake Paul in the 6th round of their fight on Netflix.
Style that would align with a ring that size, a negative style, as we mentioned. It really comes down to the fan interest. Jake Paul is on a 2-fight stretch coming into this one, which really put his reputation on the line.
Boxing professionals have reacted to Jake Paul's possible retirement after his unexpected knockout loss to Anthony Joshua. Jake has indicated that once he completes all the goals he set for himself in boxing, he intends to step away from the sport and explore a future in the NFL, marking a significant change in his athletic path.
NFL after this, like legitimately just to play like safety and just deck people. No, I swear to God, I'm about to bring hella ratings to whatever team I'm on.
Where would you want to go if you can go to any team?
Shit, the Browns.
So
I can run a 4.34.
He's the fastest man on the planet.
I got hands. I have the size, the power. I can knock people out with one punch. So why can't I play free safety?
Do you think you coming into the NFL would be the equivalent of like when an NFL player says, I'm going to try to box now?
No, because I played football my whole life. At the end of the day, it's coverage, knowing your plays, and then just being fast and willing.
The boxing world responded strongly to the fight. After the shocking knockout, former user IB shared a blunt reaction about Jake Paul's future in boxing, posting, "Jake Paul got knocked out. His career's over. He's finished." Duke McKenzie also commented on the fight, pointing out how much smaller Jake Paul was compared to Anthony Joshua. He explained that even when Jake attempted to throw punches, he struggled to reach AJ, underlining the clear mismatch. McKenzie strongly advised that Jake should put an end to this now, warning that continuing in fights like this could be dangerous and harmful to his boxing reputation.
Paul tried to throw a shot, he would lunge in, jump in, and because he was so short, he'd miss. And then he ended up stumbling over his feet and falling over. Sometimes in that fight, he reminded me of, have you seen that Kung Fu film called The Drunken Master? Except for he wasn't a master. As a Kung Fu guy who walks around and normally kicks people's ass, but he looks drunk all the time. That's what that fight reminded me of. It was such a poor showing from Jake Paul. You know, I mean, it's a well-documented fact. There was a lot of money on the line. And I'm sure you, Max, as I would, and anybody else in the street would fight Anthony Joshua for 75 million. You just would. And the same thing would happen. And even after the fight, now the fight's over, the 75 million.
Another former user, Chelsea, reacted strongly to Jake Paul's shocking loss, sharing her honest reaction and relief by posting, "I barely come here anymore, but I'm really glad Jake Paul lost. Maybe now he'll finally be quiet." Former UFC champion Michael Bisping also responded to Jake Paul's crushing defeat against Anthony Joshua, describing it as a masterclass. He explained how badly Jake was hurt, pointing out that AJ's powerful uppercuts and combinations gave Paul no space to move. Despite Jake's attempt to avoid the shots by moving around, he was unable to escape the damage. Bisping stressed that the injuries to Jake's face and his overall condition was serious, making it clear that he needs proper rest and recovery before thinking about any future fights. The bout clearly exposed Jake's limitations when facing top-level opponents.
In my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough to...
Another former user, Cabral's Finest, reacted to Jake Paul's serious injury, commenting on how severe the situation appeared by posting, "Jake Paul has been taken to the hospital with a suspected broken jaw. He was forced into early retirement." Sean Jones also shared his thoughts on the intense matchup between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, pointing out that at least the fight was not staged or scripted. He noted that even though Jake suffered a broken jaw, Joshua didn't appear to use his full power, suggesting the knockout could have been even worse. Jones highlighted the seriousness of the injury while giving credit to the fight's authenticity. He believed Jake faced a real test, and the bout exposed the harsh reality of stepping up against a world-class boxer like Joshua, making the injury even more significant.
But all those people who were fully convinced that this fight was 100% rigged, like people said that this is a clown show, and they said this is rigged, this is scripted. Okay, so now Joshua's won. What are you going to say to that? So was it scripted that Joshua was going to win? You see this whole narrative about, oh, the fight's rigged, the fight's scripted. That's illegal to do, and Joshua is not going to tarnish his legacy by doing something like that. Would Jake Paul do something like that? Maybe so, yeah, but not someone like Joshua. Come on. Now, to be fair, 80% of that fight was looking a little bit dodgy. It was looking like Joshua wasn't throwing as much as he usually would. Jake Paul was landing on Joshua. He landed a really strong jab that knocked Joshua's head back. He landed a couple of decent overhand rights. In fact, Jake was kind of the first one who landed the biggest shots of the fight. But this is the thing, anyone who fights, even on like a low-level basis, or who just does some sparring, will understand that when you fight someone who has got nowhere near the skill level as you, sometimes it can be a little bit harder because they're awkward, they're doing stuff that you don't really expect. You know, sometimes when you fight beginners, it's a bloody nightmare. Just like, you know, awkward movements. You're like, what are they throwing? You don't expect certain shots to come that do come. And then you fight someone who's a little bit more traditionally sound with the fundamentals, and it's almost a little bit easier. And I think that's what we've seen here in this fight. AJ has had an easier time with some fighters who've got like 40 professional fights with 20 KOs on the record than he did with Jake Paul. Why is that? Oh, because it's scripted. It's scripted. No, it's not scripted. It's just because Jake Paul is awkward and he's a beginner in relation to Joshua. So Joshua just took some time to figure them out. You could see Joshua was getting a little bit frustrated in that 4th and 5th round, but then he started.
User Mir7 Juan issued a blunt warning to Jake Paul after his loss, urging him to step away from the sport by posting, "Do everyone a favor and don't come back." Many boxing fans appear to have reached their limit. Analyst Liam Goff also cautioned that Jake Paul is in serious trouble following his brutal defeat to Anthony Joshua. According to Goff, the paths forward in Jake's boxing career are effectively closed for now due to the severity of his injuries, which will require a long recovery period. With a broken jaw and other physical issues, Jake is expected to pause everything and focus solely on healing. Goff emphasized that until Jake makes a full recovery, any talk of returning to the ring should be put on hold. He stressed that this recovery phase is critical for Jake's long-term health and his future in professional sports, making the situation especially concerning.
For him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring.
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to what we did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua, here is a two-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul, and we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there. There's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to...
That wraps up today's video. Stay tuned. Until next time.